My own daughter, the one I raised for 35 years, one day I happened to read a message she sent her husband. "We need to sacrifice Dad. Treat him like a pawn. An old man like him won't live much longer. This house will be ours soon." A few hours later, she handed me an envelope. Inside was a debt of $400,000, with a forged signature identical to mine. When I refused, she splashed hot coffee straight onto my chest, while her husband shouted, "Get out of this house, you useless old man!" That was not just betrayal. That was a scheme to erase my entire life. And from that very moment, I swore to turn humiliation into justice. If you'd like to know how I turn the tables, please subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and leave a comment telling me where you're listening from. I'm grateful you're here. The October morning light in Austin streamed through the kitchen window, gliding across the glossy white tiles, and pausing on the half-read newspaper in front of me. I, Thomas Caldwell, 66 years old, was used to a simple rhythm: brew a pot of drip coffee, slice some bread, open the sports section of the Austin American Statesman. That familiar pattern gave me the feeling that the world outside, with all its turmoil, still allowed a retired old man like me a little peace. The slap of slippers on tiles signaled someone's arrival. I looked up and saw the radiant smile of my daughter Rachel. Only 34 years old, she was used to employing that smile to ask for money, to dodge blame, and now to open a play I had not anticipated. "Daddy, I have a surprise for you." Her voice carried a forced cheer I knew all too well. Behind her, Eric Dalton, her husband, appeared, arms crossed, leaning against the counter. He carried the overconfident air of a man used to leeching off others, as though this house were his territory. I froze for a beat. This was my kitchen, the house I had paid mortgage on for 30 years, not a stage for him to parade authority. Rachel clutched a heavy yellow envelope to her chest, as if shielding a secret. I set the newspaper down beside my half-eaten toast and looked at it. "What kind of surprise?" I asked, keeping my tone steady. "Just open it, you'll see." She extended the envelope toward me, fingers trembling slightly. Before I could touch it, Eric spoke, cold and commanding. "Go ahead, Thomas. We've been waiting to share this with you." I pulled out the papers. Immediately, the smell of fresh ink and paper rose, unsettling. Stacks of documents, credit card statements, loan papers, casino bills. I glanced through them, my heart sinking. The numbers, over $350,000, were tied to my name. Worse still, the signature at the bottom of each page was my exact handwriting. Every loop, every break. I snapped my head up. "What the hell is this?" Rachel stopped smiling, her eyes shimmering with tears. "This is your debt. Daddy, you signed all of it. Eric and I found it when we helped you sort your paperwork last month. Don't you remember?" I remembered clearly. They had come saying they wanted to organize the desk. I was busy cooking lunch, letting them rifle through drawers and rearranging the filing cabinet. Now, thinking back, my chest tightened. They must have set this trap then. But I've never set foot in a casino. I didn't sign any of this. My voice snapped, my hand gripping the coffee cup. Eric smirked. "Your memory isn't what it used to be, but those signatures don't lie." I studied them closer. Every line was perfectly forged. Someone had practiced until flawless. Rachel cut in, voice choking. "Daddy, we need to pay by next Monday. If not, the creditors will crush everything. House, car, bank account. Do you want me out on the street? Eric's been out of work for 3 months, and we have nowhere else to go." I drew in a long breath. I had raised her since her mother passed, scraped together money for her college, and paid for a wedding Eric never contributed a cent to. And now she looked me in the eye with fake tears, making me the culprit. "Family doesn't forge signatures," I spat the words. Rachel's face changed, her forced smile gone. She gripped the envelope, then slammed her hand on the table. The coffee cup rattled, liquid sloshing. "Fine. If you won't admit it, then I'll change your mind." She turned toward the coffee pot, boiling furiously. The air thickened. I stood, sensing the smell of printed paper, burnt coffee, and betrayal in the house I had called home for 30 years. In that moment, I didn't yet know a far greater pain was coming. I stood frozen in the familiar kitchen, once filled with family dinners, once echoing with little Rachel running around asking, "Daddy, can I have ice cream tomorrow?" That innocent picture was erased by the sight before me, my grown daughter gripping a pot of hot coffee, eyes blazing with fury. "Rachel, put it down!" My voice was low, clinging to reason in a room ready to explode. But she shook her head, hair plastered to her sweaty face. "You don't get it. For 35 years I've had to clean up your messes. Now it's enough." "Enough of what? I've never had debt, never gambled. This is forgery." I pointed at the stack of papers. Eric stepped closer, blocking the exit like a predator. His voice dropped, menacing. "The signatures match. Debt collectors won't care what you say. If you don't pay, they'll take the house. We're just trying to help you keep a piece of it." I laughed dryly. "Keep it for me? Or for yourselves?" Rachel's eyes flashed, something between fleeting regret and cruelty. Then, without warning, she swung the pot. Scalding liquid splashed onto my chest, searing like a red-hot blade against skin. A scream tore from my throat, strangled by the steam. Flannel clung to flesh, the stench of burning cloth and coffee making me gag. I staggered, crashing against the table, vision swimming. "Jesus, Rachel!" I shouted, clawing at the shirt glued to my blistering skin. Rachel froze, the pot trembling in her hands, but Eric did not. He stepped forward, face calm, almost cold. "Get out, old man. This house is ours now." I stumbled back, chest heaving. "This is my house. My name is on the deed. I paid the mortgage for 30 years. You have no claim." Eric pressed close, breath reeking of smoke and stale beer. "Not anymore. Tomorrow the creditors will file a lien. We'll negotiate. You won't. You've got only one way. Out." I stared at him. In that moment, it was clear. The past 4 years weren't accidents. They had planned it, moving in temporarily, slowly claiming space, rearranging the garage, borrowing for a food truck, and now fabricating this mountain of debt. Rachel dropped the pot, glass shattering across the tile, shards clinking like a death knell. Coffee spread mixing with the stench from my scorched shirt into a vile brew. I swallowed the pain and staggered toward the hallway. "I need to change my shirt." Eric blocked the way. 5 minutes. Pack light. If we're lucky, we'll send your things later." I clenched my fist. "Move." Our eyes met. In him I saw contempt and overconfidence, but there was also a flicker of hesitation, perhaps because he had never heard me growl like that. He stepped aside, but I knew full well every step I took down that hall was being watched, as if I were a prisoner, granted a reprieve. The bedroom door clicked shut behind me. For the first time in this terrible morning, I was alone. Heat still rose from my burned chest. I took off my shirt, looked in the mirror, and saw wide red patches and a few blisters. In that mirror sat a 66-year-old man who looked spat upon by life. But in my eyes there remained a fire that would not die. I opened the closet, grabbed a small suitcase, shoved in a few changes of clothes, my blood pressure meds, and my leather wallet. Then I bent down to the secret drawer in my desk, a thin folder with the deed to the house, the insurance papers, my birth certificate, and an unsigned will. They had not found this place. I pulled out my phone, opened the scanning app, and ran each page through. It took less than a minute, but it was enough to create the first layer of evidence for the coming fight. Whispering drifted in from the hall. Rachel and Eric were talking, voices tense, but the words indistinct. My heart pounded, yet my hands were oddly steady. I zipped the suitcase and heard the sound ring in the quiet room. I knew I could not stay, not because I was afraid of them, but because to win I had to step outside, find allies, and turn their betrayal into a counterattack. I took the suitcase, opened the back window, slipped out into the backyard, silent like an escapee. The October breeze touched my burned chest, and it brought sharp pain, but it sharpened my senses. I headed for the fence toward the neighbor's house, where Henry Wallace, the retired schoolteacher, had lived for more than 15 years. Tonight, that house would become my first stronghold. Our backyards joined at the weathered wooden fence, where for 15 years Henry and I had leaned and talked about baseball, the weather, and the changes in the neighborhood. Tonight, that old gate was my only way out. The October wind made the burns tingle. I hugged the suitcase and crossed the narrow path to Henry's porch. Warm kitchen light poured through the window, revealing my old friend sitting alone with a steaming cup of tea and a newspaper. The sight was so familiar, I almost cried. I knocked softly on the back door. "Henry, it's me." He looked up, his gray eyes startled to see me, shirt drenched, chest a patchwork of red, suitcase in hand. Henry hurried to open the door, warmth rushing out to pull me from the cold. "Thomas, for heaven's sake, what happened to you?" I stumbled in and set the suitcase down, breathing hard. "I need to stay a few hours. Rachel, she just threw boiling coffee on me. Eric kicked me out of my own house." Henry's eyes went wide as he pulled a chair. He rummaged for the medicine cabinet, handed me burn gel and gauze. "Sit still. Let me patch you up." God, I've never seen anything like this. As the cool compress touched my skin, I told him everything. The fake debt envelope for more than $350,000. The identical signatures. Eric standing at the door with the bearing of a homeowner. My voice went hoarse, and the more I spoke, the clearer the truth became. This was not a sudden burst of anger. This was a long-bred scheme. Henry listened in silence, brows knitting. When I finished, he tapped the table with his fingers, the old habit of a former teacher of law. "Thomas, what you describe is no longer a family dispute. This is elder abuse, financial exploitation of an elderly person. Add forgery and assault. In Texas, both are felonies." I bowed my head and sighed. "Rachel is my own daughter, Henry. I raised her after her mother died. I never thought I'd have to use the word felony to describe her actions." Henry put his hand on my shoulder and squeezed. "She has gone too far. You cannot keep excusing her because she's your child." I sipped the chamomile he poured. Its gentle taste barely touched the wrenching in my chest. I remembered 4 years ago when Rachel and Eric moved in temporarily. I thought it would be a month of hardship. "Henry, do you remember the time Eric rearranged my garage?" I asked, voice breaking. Henry nodded, squinting. "I remember. You were furious." That should have been the first sign. I came home from work to find all the tools I'd collected for 30 years had been moved. I asked why, and he said, "This is our garage now." Rachel sat there and didn't object. I should have understood then. Henry nodded softly as if confirming that those signs had been clear. I continued, my voice trembling with rage. Then the food truck. He convinced me to invest all $12,000 of my savings. 3 weeks later, the truck vanished, and he said he sold it to pay debts. Rachel defended him. "He's trying to save you from losing more." Step by step, they turned me into a walking ATM. Henry leaned back and sighed heavily. "Thomas, they have been gaslighting you for 4 years. They didn't just freeload. They trained you to believe opposing them was selfish. Today, they struck the final blow. The fake debt. And you know, $350,000 is not a random number. It matches what Eric actually owes." I looked up, surprised. "What are you saying?" Henry pulled a slim file from the drawer. "I have a habit of checking public records. Eric was once arrested for writing bad checks and is still on probation. I happened to read the Travis County docket. He owes bookies online and some casinos in Louisiana. The amount is about $250,000, plus nearly $100,000 in interest. Sound familiar?" My chest lurched. The amount he owed matched the fake debt they pinned on me. The veil dropped. They had used his actual debts and shifted them onto my name with forged signatures. I tightened my grip on the teacup until my teeth clicked. They wanted me to take the fall so he could escape, and Rachel would keep the house. Henry nodded. Exactly. And to make sure Rachel isn't on any paperwork. If Eric goes to prison, she remains clean and has the right to stay. I fell silent, only the clock ticking on the wall. Something inside me cracked. Rachel, the child who used to sit on my shoulders, cheering at fireworks, had become a link in a plan to strip her father of everything. Henry said slowly, "You need stronger evidence. Did you scan the documents?" I nodded. I scanned everything. The deed, the insurance, even the unsigned will. Good. Now there is one step left. Call the police. I looked up, my eyes wavering. I'm not ready. After all, Rachel is family. Henry studied me for a long moment, his teacher's sternness returning. Thomas, your daughter threw boiling coffee on you. This is no longer an argument. This is assault. If you don't stop them now, the next time will be worse. Outside the window, thick darkness covered the quiet neighborhood. In the lit kitchen I sat, between the ticking of the clock, the gentle scent of chamomile, and the searing burn on my chest. Inside me, hesitation and fatherly love collided violently. I knew Henry was right, but admitting that meant cutting the last thread between me and Rachel. The phone rang suddenly, making us both jump. Henry picked it up, listened briefly, then handed it to me. It's them. They're calling my number now. I stared at the phone as if staring at a chain, linking me to an abyss. I didn't pick it up, but deep down I knew. The moment of choice was near. The phone went silent after 3 sharp rings. Henry set the receiver down, brows furrowed. They know you're here, Thomas. We'd better prepare before they come. I inhaled deeply, chest still stinging. For a moment, Rachel's childhood image returned, running in the backyard, laughing as I built her a swing from an oak. But that memory was drowned by the cruel truth. She had sided with her husband to frame me in debt, even scalding me with boiling coffee. Henry opened his laptop, scrolling fast. I've been tracking for months. Eric isn't as careful as he thinks. He turned the screen to me. Dozens of screenshots. Football betting, online poker, digital roulette, transactions in plain sight. $500, $800, then jumps to $5,000. In just 6 months, over $250,000. I froze. How did you get this? Henry shrugged. Eric is stupid. He logged in using your home Wi-Fi. I had an old sniffing tool from teaching cybersecurity. I noticed your IP is constantly hitting gambling sites in Nevada. I kept the logs. I held the printed sheet Henry handed me, a long list of logins, all from my home IP. So, he gambled using my network? Henry nodded firmly. Not just the network. I fear he used your personal data. Look. He opened another folder, photos of text messages Henry had seen when Eric left his phone in the garage. Chilling words, Tony Vega, you owe me $50K, pay next week or lose your legs. Ice Mike, interest is 30% a month. Don't make me come to your house. My chest tightened. Those names sounded like mafia. God. Henry's hand pressed firmly on my shoulder. Thomas, now it's clear. The $350,000 debt they shoved in that envelope is Eric's real debt. He forged your signature to dump it all on you. And Rachel, she chose his side. I closed my eyes, trying to swallow the pain. Part of me wanted to believe Rachel was misled, but the scald on my chest was proof. She chose violence to protect Eric. Henry continued like a professor. We need to build a case. 1, evidence of forged signatures. 2, gambling access logs. 3, threats from loan sharks. Add your medical report for the burn. That package is enough for the police to establish probable cause to arrest Eric for identity theft and fraud, and Rachel for assault. I nodded, but my heart sank heavily. Henry, if this goes to court, Rachel will have a criminal record. Her life will be ruined. Her life was ruined the moment she threw boiling coffee at you. Henry replied without hesitation. If you don't act, next time they'll take everything. Maybe not just money, but your life. I fell silent. The The yellow lamp threw my trembling shadow across the floor. Just then, my cell phone buzzed. Rachel's number lit up. I declined. But text poured in. "Daddy, I'm sorry. Just sign and it will all be okay." "If you don't sign, they'll come. We'll lose everything." I showed Henry. He shook his head. "That's not an apology. That's emotional blackmail. She's trying to soften you." I felt my heart crack. Between fatherhood and truth, I had to choose, and the only choice to protect myself was to face it. Henry poured more tea, speaking slowly. "Do you know Eric has a probation review next month? If he gets new charges, he's going to prison. Rachel knows. So their plan is dump the debt on you so he walks free while she keeps the house." The pieces snapped together. Rage surged in me. 4 years I've supported them, and this is what I get. Henry's gaze hardened. "Thomas, you must call the police now. The longer you wait, the more they erase evidence." My palms sweated. I knew Henry was right, but inside, guilt swirled. Rachel was my only child. I once promised my dying wife I'd protect her forever. Would I break that promise now? Henry read my thoughts. "That promise didn't mean letting her destroy you. Your late wife wouldn't want this." Outside, the October wind rattled leaves. I looked at Henry, saw his steady eyes like a lighthouse. "Fine," I whispered. "Tomorrow I'll call 911. Henry's smile was bitter. "No, Thomas. Not tomorrow. Now." My hand shook while holding the phone. The burn throbbed through my shirt. I inhaled deeply and dialed. The line clicked. A calm female voice answered. 911. "What's your emergency?" I closed my eyes, swallowing the bitter truth. I need to report a crime. My daughter attacked me in my home, and I have evidence of financial fraud by my son-in-law. As the words left me, I knew. The bridge was burned. There was no way back. The dispatcher's firm voice carried in my ear. 911, please describe your emergency." I hesitated for 1 second, as if 30 years of family memories pulled me back. But the sting on my chest woke me. I gripped the phone tight, voice hoarse but steady. "My daughter just threw boiling coffee on me at my home. Her husband threatened to kick me out. I have evidence of forged signatures and financial fraud." The voice stayed calm. "Sir, are you injured?" "I have burns on my chest and neck. Painful, but not life-threatening. I'm at a neighbor's house. Please give me the address." I recited Henry's. The words spilled shakily, but with each one my heart felt lighter, like a weight lifted at last. "They'll dispatch a unit right away, about 15 minutes. Please stay inside. Do not return to the scene. Are there any weapons in the house?" I remembered. An old hunting rifle still stored in the garage since my younger days. I admitted it. The female voice acknowledged. "Thank you. Officers will handle it. Please keep the line open." I set the phone down, hands trembling. Henry stood beside me, his eyes both stern and sympathetic. "You just did the right thing, Thomas. From this moment, this is no longer family drama. This is a crime." I slumped into the chair, sweat on my forehead. In my mind, the sound of Rachel crying as a child mixed with her furious scream when she threw coffee. 2 images colliding, tearing me apart. Henry poured more tea and pushed the cup toward me. "Drink, keep calm. Officers will be here any minute." The wall clock ticked, every minute dragging like an hour. I imagined Rachel and Eric in my house, either frantically erasing evidence, or worse, dividing up the assets as if I were dead. My phone buzzed again. Rachel's number. I hesitated, then answered. Her voice was broken. "Daddy, I'm sorry. I just wanted to protect the family. If you sign the debt, we'll be safe." I stayed silent. The pain in her voice almost broke me. But Henry pointed to the burns on my chest. I swallowed, forcing my voice. "Rachel, family doesn't forge signatures. Family doesn't throw boiling coffee at their father. Police are on their way. Don't do anything stupid." The line went dead. The air thickened. Henry shook his head. "See? She only called to drag you back into guilt." I said nothing. Instead, I opened the suitcase, took out the folder of scanned documents, and arranged them neatly. The deed, insurance, will, and bank records, all laid on Henry's kitchen table, my arsenal for the coming battle. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. Blue and red lights flashed against the windows. Henry drew the curtain. They're here. I drew a deep breath. My heart raced, both fearful and relieved. These officers were the line between me, a 66-year-old betrayed father, and the scheming couple inside my home. A knock pounded at the door. Henry opened it. 2 officers stepped in, a gray-haired woman with sharp eyes, and a young man built solidly. "Mr. Thomas Caldwell?" the woman asked him. I rose, tugging my collar to show the burns. "Yes, ma'am. I'm the one who called 911. They exchanged a look, then pulled out notebooks. "We need the full story from the beginning." I inhaled, then recounted. The ordinary morning, the fake debt envelope, the forged signatures, Eric's threats, Rachel throwing coffee, my escape, scanning documents. Every detail, steady, as if reading an indictment against my own daughter. The young officer photographed my burns, noting carefully. The woman nodded. "We have grounds for assault and identity theft. Are you ready to take us back to your house to collect evidence?" I glanced at Henry. He nodded. "Let's go, Thomas. It's time." The quiet suburban street now glowed with flashing lights. I followed the officers out, chest aching under makeshift bandages. Henry walked beside me, steady as a shadow. My house appeared familiar, yet foreign, darkened by betrayal. The kitchen light still burned, and shadows of 2 figures were moving behind the curtain. Officer Martinez, the gray-haired woman, pounded the door. "Austin Police Department, open the door now." Shuffling inside, then Rachel's shrill voice, "Just a minute." The door opened. Rachel stood there, face pale, mascara streaked. Her eyes locked on me behind the officers, widening in panic and hatred. "Rachel Caldwell?" Martinez asked, voice sharp. "We need to speak with you about this morning." Eric stepped out, shirt wrinkled, smirk plastered. "Officers, there's a mistake. The old man, he's confused. We were only helping him." Martinez's face stayed stone. "We'll verify that ourselves. Step outside." Officer Chen, the younger one, pulled Eric into the yard. I heard his growl. "This is harassment. He's making it up." Meanwhile, Martinez and I entered the kitchen. The stench of burnt coffee clung to the air. Stains spread across the tile, and glass shards glittered under fluorescent light. On the table, the fake debt papers lay scattered. Martinez slipped on the gloves, gathered the documents, and showed me. "These are the ones?" I nodded, pointing at the signatures. "Every line is forged." Martinez noted carefully and radioed for an evidence unit. Chen returned. "Eric Dalton is currently on probation for check fraud, confirmed in the system. With this evidence, we can hold him for probation violation and identity theft." Rachel leaned against the wall, trembling. Tears welled. "Daddy, please. I just wanted to save the family. I never thought it would go this far." I met her eyes. "You call scalding your father saving the family?" Martinez stepped forward. "Ms. Caldwell, you're under arrest for domestic assault." She read the Miranda rights evenly. "You have the right to remain silent." Rachel broke down crying, reaching for me, but Martinez pulled her back. In her eyes, I was no longer Daddy, but the accuser, the wall blocking her and Eric from escaping their pit. Outside, Chen cuffed Eric. He struggled, shouting, "He's the one with debts. Those signatures are real. He's senile. Don't believe him." Chen snapped the cuffs tight, voice steel cold. "Mr. Dalton, we have electronic logs and loan shark messages. You'll explain in court." I stood at the doorway, watching them both being dragged away. In that moment, I felt a strange mix. Sorrow, fury, but also relief. The transport van arrived. Rachel sat in the back seat, head bowed, shoulders shaking with sobs. Eric never stopped shouting, blaming, cursing, until the door slammed shut, cutting him off. Martinez handed me a card. "Mr. Caldwell, here is the case number. Tomorrow, the prosecutor's office will contact you. Please keep every piece of evidence safe." I took the card, fingers trembling. Printed clearly. Case, Nash TX, 2025, 4176. As the convoy left, the blue and red lights washed over the facade of the house I had once called home. For the first time in years, it was silent. No Eric's fake laughter, no Rachel's coaxing voice, only emptiness, gaping like an open wound. Henry placed a hand on my shoulder. Tonight, you won the first round, Thomas, but this is only the beginning of a long fight. I stared at the house and nodded quietly. Inside me rose a vow. I would reclaim my honor, reclaim my home, not only through law, but through truth. That night, as the police car carried Rachel and Eric away, the street returned to an eerie quiet. Only crickets chirped under the dim glow of the street lamps. I stood still, gazing at my darkened house, hours ago filled with betrayal, now hollow as a shell, stripped of family breath. Henry urged me not to stay alone. You need someone nearby. The wound of betrayal from your own blood can crush you. Sleep here tonight. I didn't argue. I felt adrift, stripped of both emotional anchor and control over my life. Henry's living room smelled of old pine wood and faint chamomile. I sank onto the sofa, suitcase at my side, eyes fixed on the bandages across my chest. The burns throbbed with every move, but the wound inside hurt far more. I remembered Rachel's voice when handcuffed, pleading and spiteful at once. In her eyes, I was no longer a father, but a senile old man daring to resist. The thought twisted my heart. Henry set a steaming cup before me. Listen, Thomas, I've taught thousands of kids. Some chose wrong paths. Few turn back unless forced to face consequences. Rachel is the same. If you forgive her now, she'll continue. If you let the law act, at least she may have to reflect. My hand shook as I lifted the cup. Do you think she still has a way back? Henry's gaze was steady. That's no longer up to you. What matters now is protecting yourself. That night, I barely slept. Each time I closed my eyes, I saw Rachel swinging the coffee pot, Eric's eyes gleaming as he thought the house was his. I lay in the small guest room, listening to the grandfather clock strike each hour, my chest heavy. Morning came with pounding at the door. A young officer entered, uniform crisp, holding a file. I'm Officer Reed, Investigations Unit. Here are the official case documents. Mr. Caldwell, we need your detailed statement and signature. I sat up and signed each page carefully. Each stroke felt like a blade cutting deeper into family memory. But I knew this was the step that transformed private pain into legal truth, forcing Rachel and Eric to face consequences. Reed added, within 48 hours, the Travis County Prosecutor's Office will contact you. Please prepare all supporting papers, deed, bank statements, proof of fraudulent debts. I opened the suitcase and pulled out the folder. I scanned everything. These are originals. Reed nodded, impressed. You did the right thing. This will help us a great deal. When he left, Henry turned to me. See? This is no longer family drama. This is a criminal case. You've taken the first step to restore your honor. That afternoon, I stepped into Henry's backyard, looking toward my own garden. The rose bushes I planted for my late wife still stood, though leaves wilted, branches broken from Rachel's neglect. I bent down, smelled the damp earth. A quiet resolve filled me. I would restore it all, piece by piece. The phone rang. A strange number. I answered. A voice introduced itself. Gregory Martin, attorney specializing in elder abuse. Henry contacted me and explained briefly. I'd like to meet tomorrow to discuss. Elder abuse? The words cut into my pride. I had never imagined being counted among elderly victims exploited by their children. But it was the raw truth. I replied, tomorrow 9 a.m., I'll be there. Setting the phone down, I caught Henry's faint smile. You're stepping into a new chess game, Thomas. This time, the law is on your side. That evening, I opened my laptop. The screenshots Henry had collected flashed on screen. Gambling logs, loan shark threats. I saved copies onto a USB and tucked it into my shirt pocket. This would be the weapon I'd bring to the lawyer. As night fell, I stood on Henry's porch, staring at my house. The living room window was dark, but in my mind, Eric's voice still echoed, "Get out, old man!" I gripped the railing, whispered, "No, this is still my house, and I will take it back, whatever it takes." The Austin morning was crisp, the wind carrying damp air from the Colorado River. I stepped out of the car, suitcase of evidence in hand, before the glass office building of Gregory Martin's law firm. The reflective windows mirrored a gray sky, reminding me of that morning Rachel handed me the debt envelope. This time, I was determined not to be caught off guard again. Gregory greeted me as soon as I entered. In his 50s, tall and lean, salt and pepper hair, thin-framed glasses, his voice firm yet warm. "Mr. Caldwell, I've heard from Henry. Let's sit down. We have much to cover." The meeting room glared bright with fluorescent light, a long wooden table covered in files. Gregory poured me water. "First, I need you to recount everything. From when Rachel and Eric moved in until the arrests," I began, detail by detail. Moving in temporarily, seizing the garage, the vanished $15,000 food truck, the forged $400,000 debt, the boiling coffee. Gregory never interrupted, jotting sharp notes, his eyes narrowing at key points. When I finished, he nodded. "What you've described amounts to multiple crimes: assault, identity theft, financial exploitation of an elder, even conspiracy to defraud. This is no longer family. It is serious criminal conduct." I winced. "Hearing you say that feels like being slapped." "Rachel, she's my only daughter." Gregory set his pen down, eyes locked on mine. "I understand your pain. But remember, courts don't try father-daughter bonds. They try criminal acts. If you don't stand firm, they will destroy you." I gripped the suitcase, opened it, and pulled out the folder. "Here are all the documents: deed, insurance, will, and the scanned gambling logs from my Wi-Fi." Gregory slipped on the gloves and examined them one by one. He pointed to a page. "This forgery is expert level, but a handwriting analyst will prove it, will request a forensic review." Then he studied the loan shark text. "These threats matter. If Eric borrowed from illegal lenders, he hasn't only committed crimes against you, but against the state of Texas. The prosecutor will want to make an example." Gregory stacked the papers neatly, his tone like iron. "Our strategy has 3 parts. First, protect your assets. I'll file an emergency protective order, barring Rachel and Eric from accessing the house or transferring property. Second, assist the prosecutor in bringing the criminal case to trial. Third, prepare a civil suit to recover the $15,000 food truck money and every expense you were coerced into paying." Hearing that, something stirred in me, no longer just pain, but the spark of counterattack. Gregory leaned forward. "Mr. Caldwell, I need to ask directly. Are you prepared to face Rachel in court and testify to the truth?" The question cut like a blade. Images collided in my mind. Rachel's tiny hand clutching mine on her first day of school, and Rachel standing in the kitchen with a pot of coffee. I inhaled. "Yes, I will. I have no choice." Gregory nodded firmly. "Good. I'll contact the prosecutor's office today. Next week you'll receive a subpoena as a witness. Be ready. Their lawyers may argue you're senile, unreliable. They'll try to paint you as a confused old man." I gave a bitter smile. "They've tried that for 4 years. This time, I have evidence." We spoke for over an hour about procedures and paperwork. Gregory scheduled. "In 3 days, I want you back with Henry. He holds the data logs and can serve as a supporting witness. We'll lock the case down tight." Leaving the office, I felt different than when I arrived. No longer the old man stumbling to a neighbor for refuge. I was a betrayed father, but also a plaintiff with the law at his back. Outside, the Texas sun forced my eyes to squint. On my phone were missed calls from Rachel. I didn't answer. I forwarded them all to Gregory, for the record, as harassment and intimidation. Henry met me at the lot. "How was it?" I sighed, but there was life in my voice. Gregory says we have a chance, but I must be ready to face Rachel in court. Henry gripped my shoulder. You're more ready than you think. This is only the beginning. That night, back at Henry's, I slept deeply for the first time since it began. In dreams, I saw my house locked, safe, Eric and Rachel gone, and roses blooming, again as they once had. 3 days later, I thought I could breathe, but the storm came from where I least expected, the media. That morning I sat at Henry's table, burns still stinging under bandages when the phone rang. Gregory's voice was tight. Thomas, have you seen the news? Not yet. What is it? Eric and Rachel hired a local PR firm. This morning, online outlets and small stations ran stories accusing you of elder abuse against your own daughter. I froze. Elder abuse? I'm the victim. Gregory hissed through his teeth. They're flipping the script. Rachel claims you controlled her finances, stripped her freedom, and when she begged for help, you retaliated by calling the police. Reporters are swarming. Remember, say nothing but, speak to my lawyer. I'll handle it. After the call, Henry pulled up his laptop. On the Austin Chronicle site, the headline screamed, 66-year-old father accuses daughter. Neighbors claim signs of senility. My chest clenched as I read. Rachel's photos showed her weary eyes, red. She told them, my father grew confused, forgot bills, lost documents. Eric and I only wanted to help. But when we raised the debt, he grew angry and called the police to ruin us. Anonymous sources, clearly Eric's invention, claimed I was erratic and often drunk. Each line cut into the honor I had built over decades. Henry patted my shoulder. Classic tactic. Turn victim into villain. But remember, we have proof. My phone buzzed nonstop. Reporters, strangers, voicemails. One female journalist asked, Mr. Caldwell, did you really abuse your daughter? The public wants your side. I switched off the phone, pulse racing. In the mirror I saw an old man, weary, silver-haired. Would people believe me or her tears? That afternoon, Gregory arrived with a man in a white shirt and blue tie. Thomas, this is Marco Alvarez, a former FBI investigator. I've brought him in to strengthen our case. He specializes in fraud and cybercrime. He'll prove the gambling logs and forged signatures couldn't be yours. Marco's handshake was firm. Mr. Caldwell, I've reviewed Henry's files. They left trails everywhere. I will trace each transaction, each IP, each digital fingerprint. Leave it to me. His voice carried steel. For the first time in days, I felt hope. That evening, as Henry flipped on the TV, Rachel's image filled the screen again. She wore a plain sweater, eyes moist, telling a reporter, I just wanted my father safe. Now he's turned me into a criminal. I don't know what to do anymore. The public would find her more sympathetic than me, an old man painted as senile. Rage flared, but deep sorrow followed. The same child I once carried to church on Sundays now stood on TV, weaving a tale to bury me. I clenched the armrest. Gregory, if public opinion turns, will I lose? Gregory stayed calm. No, Thomas. In court, only. Evidence matters. Juries will see forensic reports, digital logs, and loan shark threats. Truth is irrefutable. Marco added, and I'll secure that truth. I've seen dozens of these cases. Criminals think they're clever, but they always leave tracks. My breathing slowed, but I knew I faced two battles. One in court, one in the court of public opinion. That night, I stood on Henry's porch, gazing at my dark house. The wind carried the smell of dry soil and dying roses. I whispered, Rachel, you chose him over me. You chose to fight your own father. But this time, I won't back down. Monday morning dawned pale over Austin. Sunlight pierced Henry's blinds as Marco arrived, laptop and thick files in tow. He looked more professor than ex-agent, but his eyes missed nothing. I worked until nearly 3 a.m., Marco began, plugging cables into his laptop, and I found what we need. My heart leapt. Truly? He nodded, turning the screen. Rows of logs appeared, IP addresses, login times, gambling accounts, All these transactions came from your Wi-Fi. But the crucial part, he tapped a key, we have device fingerprints. On screen. Device, MacBook Pro, serial ARM E7X 9K21. Marco pointed. This is Eric's laptop. I pulled the serial from a failed session log. It's indisputable. I stared at the screen, chest aching not only from burns. For years I'd paid for the devices and the internet, and he had used them to chain me with debts of his own making. Here. Marco opened another folder, screenshots of messages. I recovered them from a cloud backup Eric never deleted. The threads with Tony Vega and Ice Mike confirm he owes more than $320,000. There's even a photo of a plane ticket to Vegas. Henry let out a low whistle. Good Lord, he really tied his own noose. Marco gave a thin smile. Guys like this think deleting history is enough. Internet data never truly disappears. My hands trembled as I took the printout Marco handed over. Clear on the page was Eric's text. I'll dump the debt on the old man. Just a few signatures, and it's done. My heart cinched. So he had planned it from the start. No mistake at all. Gregory, arriving in a dark blue suit, took the print, eyes flashing. Perfect. This is the smoking gun. With this, I can file a supplemental report with the prosecutor. They'll elevate the charges to wire fraud and conspiracy. I asked, still shaking. What about Rachel? She'll say she knew nothing. Marco shook his head and flipped to another page. Here's a chat between Rachel and Eric. She wrote, If Dad doesn't sign, we lose everything. You have to make him believe. He's old. He doesn't have much time left. A useless old man isn't worth as much as a house for our future. Sacrifice once so the rest of our lives are safe. It struck me like lightning. Rachel wasn't just pulled along. She took part directly. Henry slapped the table. There's no denying it now. Thomas, believe it. They're both in on it. I bowed my head, vision blurring. The memory of Rachel in a white dress on graduation day overlapped with that vicious line of chat. It felt like losing my daughter a second time. Gregory leaned toward me. Thomas, this is where you must be decisive. The court will ask, do you want Rachel held to account like Eric? I need a clear answer. I was silent for a long time. At last, I whispered, yes, she must be responsible. Marco nodded, said nothing more, and pulled up the final slide. I also found Eric was arrested in Nevada for check fraud in 2019. He took a plea deal and got probation. With this repeat offense, the odds are a minimum of 5 to 7 years in federal prison. Gregory's smile was thin. As for Rachel, with assault plus conspiracy, she may get extended probation, but a criminal record will follow her for life. That is the price of betrayal. Henry handed me a glass of water, murmuring, You see, Thomas, the truth always finds daylight. I held the glass. My hands still shook, but not from fear, from anger hardening into resolve. I'll face the jury. I'll tell everything. Gregory snapped the file shut, eyes bright. Good. Next week is the preliminary hearing. We enter the first round. That afternoon, after everyone left, I sat alone on the back porch. The hot, dry Texas wind scattered yellow leaves. I looked at the house beyond the fence, my house, now a deserted battlefield. But this time I didn't feel alone. I had Henry, I had Gregory, I had Marco, and above all, I had the truth. I whispered as if to Rachel, You chose this path, I won't retreat. The hearing day came under a gray Austin sky. I wore my old Navy suit and a well-worn but neatly knotted tie. Henry drove me. Gregory and Marco went ahead with the files. In the back seat, I clutched my leather case stuffed with prints. Access logs, messages, forged papers. Each sheet was a knife to the heart, but also my only shield. The Travis County Courthouse wasn't far, yet the ride felt endless. Through the window, I saw clusters of cameras and mics. The PR storm Rachel had whipped up was still raging. To the press, I was the old man accusing his own daughter. They didn't know the truth. Gregory met me on the steps and whispered, Steady, Thomas. Today the judge decides whether to bind this over for trial. With our evidence, I'm confident. Inside, the courtroom was modest. Polished oak, a faint scent of cleaner. No jury yet, only Judge Patricia Collins, a brown-skinned woman with short hair and a stern gaze, known for zero tolerance of financial crime. Across the aisle, Rachel sat with her own lawyer, a heavy-set man in a red tie, expert at victim narratives. She wore a white blouse, light makeup, and eyes artfully red. Eric, in an orange jail jumpsuit and cuffs, smirked at me before looking away. The judge rapped the gavel. Case TX 2025-4176. Prosecution? The assistant district attorney, a young blonde woman, rose. Your Honor, defendant Eric Dalton is charged with check fraud, identity theft, wire fraud, and probation violation. Defendant Rachel Caldwell is charged with domestic assault and conspiracy. Our primary witness is Mr. Thomas Caldwell, supported by digital and documentary evidence. I was called to the stand. My heart hammered, but my steps were sure. Gregory stood nearby, steadying me with a look. Mr. Caldwell, the prosecutor asked, what happened on the morning of the 12th of October? I told it all, detail by detail. The $400,000 envelope, the forged signatures, Eric blocking the door, Rachel throwing coffee. My voice was even without embellishment. I described the scalding pain, the stench of burnt coffee, and climbing out the window to Henry's. The prosecutor nodded, then held up papers. Do you recognize these? I do. My deed, my will, my insurance, and the fake debt packet, bearing forged signatures. Then Marco took the stand. He opened his laptop and presented the access logs and messages. When the screen showed Rachel's line, you have to make him believe. He's old. He doesn't have much time left. A useless old man isn't worth as much as a house for our future. Sacrifice once so the rest of our lives are safe. The room buzzed. My chest tightened. Every word was a blade. Judge Collins frowned. Defense? Any response to this message? The red-tied lawyer leapt up. Objection. No proof Rachel actually wrote those lines. Messages can be fabricated. Marco stayed calm. Your Honor, this is a direct recovery from an iCloud account registered to Rachel Caldwell, verified by phone number and email. The metadata cannot be spoofed. I served the FBI for 22 years and so swear. Collins struck the gavel. Objection overruled. Messages admitted. Rachel bowed her head, tears falling. For an instant I caught her glance toward Eric, fearful, dependent. Her lawyer pivoted. Your Honor, Mr. Caldwell is elderly, health declining, and prone to confusion. He has been drinking. Gregory rose. We have medical records showing Mr. Caldwell is fully lucid, not alcohol dependent, and was treated for coffee scalds that morning. Submitted. He handed over a thick packet. Collins scanned and nodded. Admitted. The room seemed to tilt our way. When Eric spoke, he shouted, He's lying. He owes the money, not me. Rachel only tried to help. Collins slammed the gavel. Silence. This is a court, not a bar. At last, after 3 hours of argument, the judge ruled. Given the volume of evidence, the court finds probable cause to proceed to trial. Defendant Eric Dalton remains in custody pending trial. Defendant Rachel Caldwell is released under strict supervision with a no-contact order protecting complainant Thomas Caldwell. The gavel fell, its crack echoing. I exhaled, as if setting the first brick of justice. Outside, reporters swarmed. I said only what Gregory instructed. Let the evidence and the court speak. Then I walked straight to the car. Henry drove, Gregory and Marco in the back. Late sunlight washed the seats. Gregory tapped the file on my knees. Thomas, you won the opening round today. The big fight lies ahead. Through the glass, I glimpsed my familiar house in the distance. This time there was no tremor in me. Only one thought. I will take back everything. Not just the roof over my head, but my honor. The day of the preliminary hearing arrived, and the Austin sky was gloomy as if covered by a layer of gray dust. I wore my old dark blue suit, the tie worn but neatly knotted. Henry drove me while Gregory and Marco went ahead to prepare the files. In the back seat, I clutched the leather briefcase containing printed evidence, access logs, messages, forged documents. Each page was like a knife in my heart, but also the only shield I had. The Travis County Courthouse was not far, yet that day the road felt endless. Through the window, I saw groups of people holding cameras and microphones. The media storm Rachel had stirred up was still blazing. In the eyes of reporters, I was the old man accusing his own daughter. They had no idea of the truth. Gregory met me on the steps. He whispered, "Stay calm, Thomas. Today's hearing is only for the judge to decide if the case proceeds to trial. With the amount of evidence we have, I am certain it will." Inside, the courtroom was not large. Polished oak wood, the faint smell of cleaning solution still lingering. The jury had not yet appeared, only Judge Patricia Collins, a dark-skinned woman with short hair and stern eyes. She was known for her zero tolerance for financial crimes. Across the table, Rachel sat with her own lawyer, a fat man with a red tie, an expert at turning clients into victims. She wore a white blouse, light makeup, and her eyes reddened, pretending to be weak. Eric wore an orange prison jumpsuit, hands still cuffed. He smirked at me once, then turned away. The judge struck the gavel. Case TX 20-25-4-176. Prosecution. Proceed. The assistant district attorney, a young blonde woman, stood and stated, "Your Honor, the defendant Eric Dalton is charged with check fraud, identity theft, wire fraud, and probation violation. The defendant, Rachel Caldwell, is charged with domestic assault and conspiracy. Our main witness is Mr. Thomas Caldwell, along with numerical and documentary evidence." I was called to the stand. My heart pounded, but I walked steadily. Gregory stood beside me, eyes encouraging. "Mr. Caldwell," the prosecutor asked, "please tell us what happened on the morning of October 12th. I recounted in detail the envelope of debt of $400,000, the forged signatures, Eric blocking the door, Rachel throwing scalding coffee. My voice was steady, without embellishment. I described the burning pain, the stench of scorched coffee, and the moment I had to climb through the window to run to Henry's house. The prosecutor nodded, then held up printed papers. "Do you recognize these documents?" "I do. This is the deed, the will, the insurance papers I kept at home. And here is the fake debt file with forged signatures." Then Marco stepped up. He opened his laptop, displaying access logs and messages. When the screen showed Rachel's chat, "If Dad doesn't sign, we lose everything. You must make him believe. He's old. He won't live much longer. A useless old man is worth less than a house for our future. Sacrifice once to be safe for life." The courtroom erupted. My chest tightened. Each word was a dagger. Judge Collins frowned. "Defense counsel, any comments on this message?" The red-tie lawyer jumped up. "Objection, it cannot be verified that Rachel actually wrote this. The messages could be fabricated." Marco calmly replied, "Your Honor, this is data recovered directly from the iCloud account registered to Rachel Caldwell, confirmed by phone number and email. Metadata cannot be faked. I served the FBI for 22 years, and I swear to its authenticity." Collins struck the gavel. "Objection overruled. The messages are admitted." Rachel lowered her head, tears falling. Yet in a fleeting glance, I caught her eyes toward Eric. Fear and dependency mingled. Her lawyer shifted tactics. "Your Honor, Mr. Caldwell is elderly, his health declining, and he may be confused. He used to drink." Gregory sprang up. "Excuse me, but we have medical records proving Mr. Caldwell is fully lucid, not an alcoholic, and medical reports of burns from hot coffee that very morning. Please review." He handed the thick file to the judge. Collins skimmed a few pages, nodded, admitted. The balance of the courtroom tilted. When Eric spoke, he shouted, "That old man is a lion. He owes the money," then blamed me. Rachel only tried to help. Collins struck the gavel. "Silence. This is a courtroom, not a bar. Finally, after 3 hours of arguments, the judge ruled. With the presented evidence, the court confirms the case qualifies for trial. Defendant Eric Dalton will remain in custody pending trial. Defendant Rachel Caldwell is released on supervision with a strict no-contact order against plaintiff Thomas Caldwell. The gavel fell, echoing across the chamber. I exhaled, as if laying the first stone of justice. Outside, reporters swarmed. I said only one sentence, as Gregory instructed. Let the evidence and the court speak. Then I walked straight to the car, not looking back. Henry drove, and Gregory and Marco sat behind. The afternoon sun shone in, casting a golden hue. Gregory tapped the briefcase on my lap. Thomas, today you won the first round, but the real battle lies ahead. I looked through the window, seeing the familiar outline of my house in the distance. This time, no trembling inside me, only one thought. I will reclaim everything, not just the house, but my honor. The day of the official trial, Austin was cold on an early January morning. The press crowded the courthouse doors, microphones and cameras aimed at everyone entering. I went with Gregory and Marco, determined that this would be the last time the past weighed me down. In the courtroom, Judge Collins presided, and the 12-member jury was seated. The prosecution swiftly presented all the evidence gathered over the past months. I no longer had to repeat. It was all clear. Forged documents, access logs, witness testimony, and the burns on my body. Rachel's lawyer tried to cling, saying she was only a desperate wife, while Eric shouted that I had fabricated everything. But against the sharpness of the prosecution and undeniable evidence, their words rang hollow. When the jury returned after nearly a day of deliberation, the courtroom fell silent. The foreman stood, voice clear. Eric Dalton, guilty on charges of identity theft, wire fraud, probation violation, conspiracy. Rachel Caldwell, guilty on domestic assault and conspiracy to commit fraud. Judge Collins struck the gavel. Eric Dalton is sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. No early parole for reoffending while on probation. Rachel Caldwell is sentenced to 2 years of supervised probation, a permanent no-contact order with Mr. Caldwell, and restitution of $25,000 to the victim. Eric was led away in cuffs, muttering curses. Rachel bowed her head, tears rolling, but no one defended her. The gavel fell one final time, the sound reverberating as an ending. Outside, I inhaled deeply. The Texas sun shone directly on my shoulders, warmer than ever. Gregory tapped the case file. Marco nodded. You have gone all the way, Thomas. That afternoon, I returned to my quiet house. I brewed a cup of tea and sat by the window, watching the sunset stretch across the porch. No more quarrels, no more strangers striding into my kitchen. Only me and the space that was mine. I took out an old photograph, my wife smiling, Rachel as a child on her mother's lap. I whispered, I kept my promise. This house is still intact. Outside, neighbors lit New Year decorations, small but steady lights, reminding me that after darkness, a new day always comes. For the first time in years, I felt the house truly belonged to me, and more importantly, I belonged to myself. So after months of struggle, the truth was clear. This house, this honor, I kept them not with youth, but with the will of a father betrayed by his own blood. And the greater lesson beyond the house, never let love be exploited, and never think old age means helplessness. I truly thank you for listening to my story. Your presence on the other side of the screen reminds me I'm not alone. If you want to continue and hear more stories many families try to bury, please subscribe, turn on notifications, and leave a comment. Every subscription, every comment is the strength that helps me keep bringing to light the secrets still hidden in the dark.